What's going on? Welcome to episode 11 Reality Podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we are going to be breaking down season 3, episode 9 of The Traitors. If you're listening on podcast platforms, today we're going to be breaking down The Traitors season 3, episode 9 and Vanderpump Rules season 1, episode 6. We'll be breaking those both down. If you're listening on podcast platforms, available on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. All podcast platforms. If you're watching here on the YouTube channel, you can check out that Vanderpump Rules season 1, episode 6 breakdown on the YouTube channel by itself. But this week we had another crazy episode of The Traitors where the faithfuls and the traitors are trying to jockey for position as we inch closer and closer to the finish line. We are down to very few members of the cast left. But as always, I am joined by my partner in crime here, Mr. Matthew Fox. How are you, sir?
I'm just, glad that I survived last night's murder to make it here.
Murder. Yeah.
You're right. It is surreal seeing what after last night. Now we're down to 7.
We really are. It is, and I will say this, for a second consecutive week in a row here, I believe Matthew Fox is hitting the nail on the head. Who's getting murdered here? Last week you mentioned the person who thought the duo should murder, and I want to say this. I want to say that I am proud of Caroline for standing on business and not allowing Danielle to manipulate her, because I think no matter how this opening stage begins, I think what happens at the end of this episode, without going into that yet, happens regardless, because I feel like Danielle was manipulating her way one way or another, and ultimately it ends up being that way. But Danielle continues to, I'll continue to make the sacrifices for you. I'll continue to prove to you that I'm not out to get you. Even though one second she's saying that, the next second she's telling the camera she's ready to stab her in the back and get rid of her. But ultimately, our person that was murdered, it came down to Sam and Dylan, and Sam, or I like to call him Brittany's ex, was officially axed, murdered by the traitors, dropping us down to 8 individuals. Matthew Fox, you kind of called it and said Sam was probably going to be that guy. Not much of a surprise there, right?
No, I had to argue. So last week they were obviously offered the opportunity to either try to recruit somebody or to murder somebody, and it seemed like they couldn't agree on recruiting because Danielle's immediately on wanting to recruit Brittany, and that's the only person she wants to recruit. I thought it would have been smart for them to either recruit one of the guys because the guys were now suspicious, or to eliminate. And Sam does make the most sense because he was kind of a linchpin between. I know Ivor says he's really close with Dylan. I haven't observed them being. I mean, I think they're friendly, but I feel like it was a trio of friends, and Sam was like the linchpin friend. So I do think that made sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that 100%. Not a bad murder. I do think here, to me, I feel like the only thing that I would have done maybe if I was Caroline was try to continue to push to recruit one of the guys instead.
Well, no, Caroline never even thought about recruiting.
No, I know that, but I'm saying
when they said recruit, both of them are like, well, it's got to, they think it's 2 women, so we got to recruit another one of the women to give us a shield. I'm like, that is a fundamental mystery. I knew they were never going to recruit somebody because when it comes to recruiting, the only person that Danielle wanted was Brittany. She wouldn't have agreed to anyone else, so it didn't really matter.
Agree 100%. All right, bye-bye, Brittany's ex. Dylan believes someone he trusts is a traitor. Well, congratulations, Dylan. You finally opened your eyes. Tom and Gabby, the unlikely alliance conversate between the two of them. I thought that was kind of funny. Dolores is speaking about how Danielle is a great, amazing, faithful, and all those things. Danielle's ready to throw Caroline under the bus without throwing her under the bus, even though they both say they're not trying to be the center of attention and throw one another underneath the bus, but all they were was the center of the attention and throw them under the bus. Dylan came to his senses on Gabby, apparently, saying he thought she was a traitor, but she would have killed him already.
Which she says, weeks ago or days ago.
Which was hilarious. Dylan asked Gabby, "You more Brittany or Danielle?" And Gabby says she's leaning Danielle. Which again, Danielle has. I mean, Gabby had herself a hell of an episode this week. I feel like Gabby we think I don't know. There's a lot of things that you don't see in the edits. You know what I mean? Like there could be game players that we don't see that are better game players, like the Ivar and Dylan or the Sam and or no the Ivar and Dylan relationship we don't see. Sure, that could be a relationship we just don't see it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, we're only going based off of what we're capable of seeing here. Uh, Dylan starts to believe that Danielle is carrying him through the game. Caroline's excited because she's starting to see that. Danielle is crying again because Brittany said she thought Brittany thought Danielle was murdered.
The Danielle crying would be the drinking game that would lead to alcoholism for the season.
It really would be. It's insane to me watching each and every week as she breaks down.
The scene that killed me the most is post breakfast when Danielle and Brittany are crying to each other about each of them surviving. I'm like, and then it cuts to Danielle's side interview where she's crying because she can't tell the truth to her best friend. I thought,
Yeah, she's like, I was trying
weren't
to
they at
recruit
odds when
you.
they started this game?
Yeah, didn't.
It feels like it's been a million years ago, but I thought in the first episode they were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Now,
that's what they hated each other.
now they're going to buy a cottage in Vermont to retire together.
Yeah, we're gonna split the money. All right, so
Oh,
the
what
mission.
152,800
Yeah, exactly.
80 52. It wasn't very much. When he said the number, I was like, right.
Yeah, it's quite low. The mission today, the traders were asked a series of questions about the faithfuls, and their job is to figure out who they gave for that answer. If they answer correctly, they'll get $5,000. There could be a total of $20,000 added to the pot. The traders amongst them know the questions. Queen Parvati has arrived. I love her. Her and Katie. Katie has been on 2 of the seasons of the Traders. And yes, we're only in season 3. And then Parvati was in season 2 as well. This is an interesting game. This is the game that single handedly cost somebody a spot on this game. I believe wholeheartedly that one person would have been banished tonight, but one person overplayed their hand. This might have been Danielle's best strategic episode to date, I think, and how they answered the questions and stuff like that. The first piece is a snake. The first question is who slithered under the radar. Traders picked Brittany. The group picked Brittany. They won $5,000. The second piece is a skull. They ask who the biggest threat was. Listen,
Tom picked himself.
Tom is, I'm sorry, we have not. The greatest thing about this is, and again, if you listen to the beginning of the episode, we're breaking down both Vanderpump and we're breaking down the Traders on the same podcast episode, but we're doing it separate here on the YouTube. The thing about this is funny. We're not getting enough Tom fix right now in Vanderpump Rules currently through the last 2 episodes that we've been covering. But Tom has been making a hell of a run here on the Traders for us to kind of make up for that lackluster, non-existing old Tom. New Tom is providing us much of the desired, you know, much of the desired what we need from Tom here. So Tom continues to pick himself. The Traders picked Brittany. They picked Tom, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, they
No,
picked
Tom
Tom.
picked himself and
Yeah.
basically browbeat everybody else into.
Yes. The third piece is a wolf. Who is the leader? The Traders decided to pick Tom, which was a brilliant play. Tom again speaks out loud and says, I pick myself. Katie and Parvati make fun of him. They ultimately go with Dylan.
But this is where, so everyone knows, the traders know what the actual answer is. So the smart players, you heard in a side interview with both Dylan and I think Gabby were talking about, they wanted to observe who was making strong cases maybe against the group. And so Danielle, when they do her side interview, she basically says, you know, I'm going to have to give up some money here and just play dumb and go with groupthink, which worked out. In the first one, everybody's groupthink was Brittany. The second one, they go with groupthink for Tom. But the third one, when they're starting to go with Dylan, Carolyn, you know, her side interview is, we've got to up this prize pot, so I got to try to help. She jumps on the Tom bandwagon, and I thought a little too aggressive of a fashion, which Dylan had been one of her biggest supporters, and it caught his eye. And I'm with you. I thought that was not great, Bob.
No, not at all. And the thing about it is it's definitely interesting because Danielle set her ass up. Danielle set her ass up pretty brilliantly here,
Mhm.
especially for the fourth one. The fourth piece is the mouse, whose voice is the most irrelevant. Caroline picks herself. Danielle was excited about that. And then, of course, this leads to Dylan thinking that Caroline framed herself here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and they still only get half the money because she laid herself out to join Tom's side in a pretty aggressive way and still gets outvoted.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Ivar is suspicious of Danielle. Caroline pleads with Dylan, saying she isn't a traitor. I will say this: the round table has been quite lackluster without Boston Rob. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, this one was fine. It's just a lot of crying and back and forth, waiting for them to pounce on each other. I don't think Carolyn thought about how it would get turned back on her because she really didn't defend herself. It's almost like what happened with Wes. Um, he was prepared to make an accusation but not to defend, and it was the awkward defense that ended up burning him. And of course we get Tom and Dolores voting for each other because they just don't like each other. So then you're down to six, and as soon as Dolores voted for Tom, I knew it was over because Dolores had been pretty seemed like she had been pretty pro Caroline, but in continuing the tradition of these roundtables, the last vote being somebody you thought was their biggest supporter turning on them was pretty rough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to me, I knew Caroline was gone. I wanted it to be Danielle so bad, and I'm pissed Caroline kind of screwed herself over in the scenario because that whole game screwed her out of this. I think Danielle is 100% gone if Caroline doesn't overplay her hand in that game because there were so many people talking about Danielle. Now, even Ivar was very pro voting for Danielle, but he said she lost the argument, and that's the reason why he voted for Caroline at the round table. You know what I mean? So like that to me, you're right, came to play about pointing the finger, but didn't prepare well to see the finger pointed back at her, which made no sense at all.
Yeah, she got
Obviously,
too emotional too. I think probably it wasn't a good attack either.
mm-mm, mm-mm. No, and I just don't understand why nobody at the round table brought up when Danielle single-handedly sacrificed herself to save other people during that one mission earlier in the show. Like that hasn't been brought up again.
Yeah,
Um, of course, she reveals, or Caroline has been banished from the show, and then of course she announces that she is in fact a traitor, and we see one of the most dramatic things I've ever seen on reality TV. Not literally, but close enough, where Danielle storms out of out the round table and just like lays on the ground crying, just in shock that she took down a traitor. But this followed with Gabby saying probably again the smartest thing that we've seen Gabby say this entire thing. And she's like, I think it was a traitor on traitor fight. It was very much giving Rob and Bob, which agree, 100% agree. That's exactly
mhm.
what the Rob versus Bob the drag queen situation gave. They just waited too long to put two and two together. Um, and then, of course, Brittany kind of sees what Gabby was saying. She said, I haven't been murdered. Is this why? Now, we knew what was going to come. Danielle wasn't going to be a lone wolf in the traitor pulpit. Per the rules, she's allowed to recruit somebody. This is the last time she'll be able to recruit somebody. She will meet them in the face to face in the castle for the dungeon. Join you or die. As I'm watching this, I knew without a shadow of doubt she's 100% picking Brittany, which, in my opinion, would be a terrible move. According to Brittany, it would be a terrible move. I 1000% think she should have went to anybody else. She should have honestly went Gabby, in my opinion, based on Gabby had voted for her at the round table.
I think she should have gone for Dylan
I don't hate that one either. Um,
because it would have thrown everything off, and he's so shook right now. Um, but yeah, no, Brittany says it can't be Danielle, right? This would be the worst move in the history of Traitors. And I'm like, Danielle or Brittany giving voice to everyone's concern. There's a big part of me that hopes she chooses death.
I don't think she will, but I do
No,
think it
because
would be one of the funniest things
who's
ever,
gonna
though.
self eliminate themselves, from the game?
We are down to 7 people. We're going to see Danielle and Brittany probably become the jointful traders as we head down to episode 10 and
Well,
11.
and
We're down to the.
I think you missed out too. They said if Brittany accepts, which we expect she will, then they murder somebody as
Yep.
normal too. So
We'll be down to 6.
6 to start, probably 5 by the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then there's going to be a competition next week that's going to give somebody a faithful a power unlike any power before in trader history. So that's going to be definitely something interesting to see. So that's going to be something you're going to see
Knowing
the
the
traders.
way this season's going, Danielle's going to win that.
Oh, probably 100%, right? To protect herself or get
Yeah.
a shield to protection
Or
into the
Brittany.
finale. Yeah, they'll get a shield to protect themselves into the finale. But if they don't continue the trend of going after the individuals that they have, because they went after Boston Rob, because Boston Rob, that was the only open thing. They went after Sierra because that was the only open thing. Now Caroline, they went after Caroline because Caroline kind of fumbled the bag at the game. Now they need to follow that up with going after Danielle at the round table. Will they do that? Probably not, because these guys are idiots. Now, who do you think is going to get murdered once, let's just say, assume Brittany and Danielle join forces, which I'm pretty confident they will?
Gabby.
Who do you think they will murder?
I think they'll take out Gabby.
Which would be a dumb decision because Gabby's the only person to have voted for Danielle outside of Caroline, obviously, because Caroline's been murdered.
Oh yeah, that's right. She voted, but I think though the fact that she's the one spurring the Danielle theories on.
Oh, that's what I know for sure, but I think that they murder Gabby. It just points the finger right to her. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Dolores and Tom have a hard on against each other, and then Dylan and Ivar just seem emotionally shook. I don't think, I think Dylan's completely back on the 1000%. Danielle's not a traitor because apparently he's used to crocodile tears from all of his time watching his brother in movies, so he can't distinguish mediocre acting from the real thing.
Yeah,
Maybe Bob the drag queen wasn't wrong.
Let's see here. I got a text message last night as Matthew Fox is watching this. I hope they all lose. This is why I hate these competition shows. Fuck Dylan. And I said, yep, Dylan's brother is a shitty actor. And then, of course, to intertwine both shows we're watching, Dylan is a fan of Frank the Former Bartender, which was hilarious. But
I also said that the round table felt like going to a middle school dance.
It did. Yes, it did. We have high school drama to no end, but yeah, folks, that is it for this week's episode of the Love and Reality podcast, breaking down the Traitors season 3, episode 9. We only have 2 episodes remaining, and then of course the explosive reunion. Guys, let me know what you guys think of this week's episode. Who do you think they're going to murder in the comments below? We'll be back next week to break down another episode.